For with him is a The Lord is good, his mercy endureth forever, and his truth endureth to all generations. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. For with him is the fountain of life, and in him shall we see light.
In the life of a city, as in the life of a person, a birthday is a significant occasion. It should be a time of searching self-analysis, of rethinking the past, and of high resolve for the future. The 100th anniversary of the founding of the city is a momentous occasion, one which not only calls the citizenry to thanksgiving for the blessings of the century that is done, but challenges them to a solemn dedication of their talents, their means, their personal endeavors to those tasks which are the responsibility and the high privilege of citizens of no mean city. The Dallas Historical Society welcomes you to this service of thanksgiving and dedication in the shrine to a state's first century, which now houses treasures of a city's first century. For the fair city and world in which we live, for the crescent splendor of each new morning, for the growing shadows of evening, for the mystic meaning of the night, for the radiance of high noon, for the songs of birds, for the crystal whiteness of winter snows, for the country roads and lanes, for the traffic of city streets, we praise and thank thee, Lord and God. O God, we praise thee for this, the city of our love and pride. We rejoice in her spacious beauty and her busy ways of commerce, in her stores and factories, where hands join hands in toil, and in her blessed homes, where heart joins heart for rest and love. Help us to make our city the common workshop of our people, where everyone can find his place and task, keen to do his best with hand and mind. Bind our citizens together, not by the bond of money and profit alone, but by the glow of neighborly goodwill, by the thrill of common joys, and the pride of common possessions. May we ever remember that our city's true wealth and greatness consists not in the abundance of the things we possess, but in the justice of our institutions and the brotherly ways of our citizens. Amen.
From the earth Throughout history, the children of God have ever sought a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, a land in which they might begin life anew and build a society of their own design. Not only in Asia and Africa and Europe, but in America as well. Indeed, upon this very ground has land, rich land, beckoned through the ages to men. A century of Spanish effort brought no settlers to this region and few to other parts of Texas. Anglo-American enterprise, in 2 decades, brought into Texas a people capable of throwing off autocracy and establishing in 1836 a republic of their own design upon a familiar pattern. But still this region of Texas was neglected. No human habitation stood within the boundaries of this country when San Jacinto was fought. The land, free, rich, available, still awaited the quickening touch, the direction and shaping of men not forbidden to dream. For millions, this was to be a promised land, but the time was not yet come. The Holy Scripture. All the commandments that I command thee this day, take great care to observe, that you may live and be multiplied, and going in may possess the land for which the Lord swore your fathers. And thou For the Lord thy God will bring thee unto a good land, of brooks and of waters and of fountains, in the plains of which and the hills deep rivers break out. The land of peace and love and dominion, wherein great trees and pomegranates and olive are the land of wild, where without any want thou shalt eat thy bread and enjoy abundance of all kinds, where the stones are iron, and out of its hills are dug mines of brass.
In November 1841, on such a day as this, a solitary horseman surveyed the scene from the right bank of the Trinity River. Who shall say what brought John Neely Bryan here to found a city? Was it merely the restless spirit of the frontiersman seeking new fields of activity? Was it mere hope of gain? Or was it providence working in its inscrutable way to open another promised land? And what impelled others to join the first pioneer in laying foundations for a great community? Blind chance, coincidence, shrewd calculation, or an inexplicable mixture of human motives? Or was it again providence moving in a mysterious way his wonders to perform? They came, these pioneers, and they builded better than they knew. With them they brought an ideology that had been evolved in free United States. Here in virgin soil, they planted in faith the seeds of a social order which glorifies the sanctity and worth of the individual. Their faith, their vision, and their willingness to work and sacrifice to achieve worthy goals, these are part and parcel of the heritage they have left to us. for pathfinders who blazed new trails, for pioneers who knew weariness of body and heart after great conflict and exertion, for comrades on our pilgrim way, for the sense of a friend's shoulder under our daily burden, for the power to help one another, for the shared life which never can be exhausted. We praise and thank thee, Lord and Father.
Wagons clacked westward and southward steadily. Men of mark from old Missouri, men of daring from Kentucky, Tennessee, Louisiana, men of many states and races, bringing their wives and children with them, struggled through flood, storm, and tangled wilderness to cluster around the lone cabin beside a muddy river, bringing their family Bibles with the long genealogies, tying this solitary settlement on the Trinity to all human beings who had fought, believed, dreamed, laughed, and cried everywhere in the world. Bringing the worn walnut clocks that first brought to the river banks a sense of the hurry and challenge of time. Bringing most of all that lodestone of the human mind and spirit, the heart. All along the winding, uncertain shores of the water, where a few years before the copper man had paused to drink and had gone forever as casually as the raccoon and the deer, all along these shores, in little cribs of logs and daubed mud, were lit the fires of kinship. As it was then, so it is today. The hearthstone roots man to his universe. It is a haven to be away from, to go back to, a fixed reference which, so long as man possesses it, keeps him from being a nameless wanderer in the world. Let the second century be admonished by the first, how the home places its stamp upon the individual. Let us pay tribute to the founders who knew that a bad home carries its mark through the years, and that a good home never loses its power to reproduce goodness. For home and kinsfolk, for the aged ones whose lit faces reveal the glory of eternal mornings, for those in the prime and pride of life whose labor enriches each passing day, for the little children whose laughter and tears are like April weather in our homes, for those whose weakness and pain are borne with such cheerfulness and courage, we praise and thank thee, Lord and Father.
Bread and love and religion have been the three great impelling interests of man. Those sturdy spirits who founded and developed our city demonstrated that man lives not by bread alone, that within the human breast there is an inescapable urge to recognize and pay tribute to the giver of life. Responding to it, our pioneers, first in little groups under the trees or in cabins, then in more stately mansions, gathered in worship of the eternal. They were laying the foundation for the great religious institutions, the churches, the chapels, the synagogues of a later day. Devoted men of God were at work among them, ever bearing witness in public and in private to the transforming grace of the good God. They were the leaven that leavened the whole lump. Love of freedom was a distinguishing trait of the early settlers in this new country. Freedom, they knew, is the political projection of a religious idea founded in faith in the fatherhood of God and brotherhood of man. Hence, here in our beloved city, there has been wrought the beautiful achievement. People from all nations and creeds living together in peace to build a strong fellowship of men under God. For the majesty and meaning of the spiritual order of thy universe, O God, for the unshaken assurance that in the end the right shall triumph, for the messages of the prophets and the songs of the poets and the interpretation of life by the philosophers, for those truths which are borne in upon us out of the vast when we dwell deeply, for the growing strength of righteousness in the world, for the privilege of being co-workers with thee in all good causes and noble programs of action. We praise and thank thee, Lord and Father.
Hand in hand with the impulse to worship God came the yearning for knowledge of the things of this world. With children came the first steps toward education, first in the family, then in the voluntary neighborhood school taught by a mother or older sister with such books as she had. Later came the private institutions, then a combination of private and free schools, and finally, after 40 years, came the beginnings of the magnificent system of public education, the implementation of the American conviction that a democratic society cannot afford the luxury of an unlettered citizenry. By the turn of the century, other institutions devoted to the science of healing and to the higher learning attested the devotion of Dallas to education. They have served the city, while the community has furnished them the means with which to work, and in turn has left its imprint upon them. For the joy of thinking thy thoughts after thee, O Lord, for all the sweet serenity of books, for the confidence and courage that are given unto us when we ally ourselves to truth in any form, for new discoveries of continents of truth, whose margins only we now see, for teachers who have helped us to find new horizons, for all the rapture of unfettered minds, we praise and thank thee, O Lord. community grew from trading post to village, then into a town, finally into a metropolis, portions and attributes, came inevitably the necessity for instrumentalities to serve human needs scarcely existed in the less complex society of the earlier day. Charities, orphanages, hospitals, clinics, libraries, museums, orchestras, dramatic organizations, recreational facilities, opportunities for continued education for profit and for pleasure. These came as needs arose. They, all of them, are integral parts of the structure of the city. Evidences not only of human ingenuity in caring for human needs and aspirations, but also the unending quest for the abundant life and the persistence of the unconquerable spirit of pioneers, for all who champion the cause of the poor, for all who seek to set free the sufferer from injustices, for all who provide a haven for the homeless, for all who heal the body and guard the health of the people, for ministers and all who guide the thoughts of the people by their writings, for all artists, poets, dramatists, musicians, and journalists, for all inspired by pure ideals, that our common life may be crowned with beauty and with vision. We praise and thank you, Lord.
Human need and a world capable of satisfying the needs of man, ever-present factors, early gave incentive for economic enterprise. In dependence upon the productivity of the good earth, men and women tilled the soil, and in the final outcome, we have the great modern industry of agriculture, our basic wealth. Businessmen, adept at dealing with practical tasks, have handled merchandise for personal gain and public service. They bought and sold. They employed men or were themselves employed. They built houses, bridges, railroads, factories, streets. Dealing with things and with people for mutual advantage, business has carried on traffic in goods and service through production, sales, and distribution. As the great commercial interests of men have prospered, are in all its branches, music, painting, sculpture and architecture, history, literature, friendship, family, and embracing them all, religion, have greatly advanced. See what God and man have wrought here. A city set upon a rich land, peopled throughout a century by men and women whose vision has never been limited to the immediate future. Men and women who yet retain the pioneer virtue and faith. For those who carry on the commerce of our city, for all on whose labor we depend for the necessities of life, for all who find in human service not alone their livelihood, but also their joy made full, for those who essay tasks that are hard and delight in work well done, in the skill of their hands, in experience, judgment, decisions, for all who seek no private gain which would hinder the good of all. We praise and thank thee, Lord and God.
Here stands the city, Dallas, proud and invincible. Its towers cut a jagged outline against a smokeless sky. And the Texas sun pours clear light through shining windows. Deep in the canyons of the city's streets, the press of traffic sounds its noisy way. Bells jangle, whistles blow, newsboys shriek, and automobiles crash bumpers with a great blaring of horns and shouted imprecations. In luxurious offices, fortunes change hands. Community chests are budgeted, and grand opera contracts signed. On Main Street, a woman in a mink coat pays $11,000 for a jeweled bracelet, while coarse, wrinkled hands wistfully finger blue jean overalls. At dusk, in rich men's houses, deliberate butlers light dining room candles, and in a river shanty, an irritable child slings 3-tined forks upon an oilcloth-covered table. Mansion, cottage, hovel. These hold the single heart of Dallas. Some part of all that has been or will be has gone into the making of this city, where the West and South unite. For Dallas, John Neely Bryan pitched his solitary tent under the stars beside the winding Trinity, and Margaret Beeman danced in moccasins upon her wedding day. French colonists braved the green wrath of infuriate seas with their piano and their violin. Swiss women prayed in covered wagons, while Indians howled about them. Alexander Cockrell laid cedar logs to span the sluggish river, and men were fined who failed to cross upon that bridge. Buffalo hides were bartered for wheat flour and printed calico. Marilla Young blew lustily upon a polished horn, while her new husband blazed a straight trail from the courthouse to their cabin door. And girls in Mary Mullen's school learned pretty graces. For Dallas, patient mules have pulled streetcars through sticky mud. Bright roads have run across the flowered prairies. Steel rails have looped the rounded peaks of mountains. Great wheels have turned in ceaseless rhythm, and silver wings have flashed against a startled sky. For Dallas, George Kessler drew a blueprint of the years to come, and love and space and beauty are hidden in its pattern. And you who listen, this is your city. These are your parks and playgrounds. These are your hospitals and colleges. This is your Dallas. You too have built Dallas. You tired woman bending over a hot sudsy tub. You worried man with the unpaid bills in your pocket. You cotton broker with the ticker tape at your elbow. You merchant with the wares of the world spread for sale. You oil promoter with the lease maps in your briefcase. You editor printing the latest headlines. You black boy from Deep Elm. And you girl from Little Mexico. You with your pickaxe, your plow, your adding machine. You with your banks, your factories, your mills. You with your dictaphone, your scalpel, your calipers. You with your chisel. You with your brush. You with your limousine, your box at the opera. You with your last year's hat, your egg money, your scissors, your broom. And you with the unwritten music. You with the unfinished story. You have made Dallas out of the sweat of your bodies, out of the froth of your dreams. Come, children of Dallas, make a new song for tomorrow. Build a new dream for the years to come. Build a dream bigger than Dallas. Make a song for all the world to sing. A new song of men united into a vast brotherhood of equality and understanding. Of full-breasted women who walk unshackled toward far goals with tenderness and with laughter in their eyes, of children who shall never know the terror and the degradation of poverty, poverty of mind or of body. A new dream of a city uninhibited by race prejudice and animosity, where the machine is man's release and not his usurper, where loaded steamboats ply a chastened trinity and commerce of the world is at its wharves. A city where traffic deaths and fire and flood will cease to be, where the malignancies of illness and hunger and despair can have no place. A city where museums and libraries and art galleries unfold the riches of the past and open the doors of the future. But let your song carry always the overtone of joy from an achieving people. Let your dream be built upon the persevering faith and stalwart courage that mark the first 100 years of Dallas.
The first century of the city teaches the second. Citizens of a community which men with God's blessings have created, we would at this milestone give thanks with our lips and in our hearts for all of the human elements that have had part in this creation. Some part of all that has been or will be has gone into the making of this city. We despise not the day of small beginnings. We rejoice in the memory of men who, like Plato, looked at a swamp and saw a city. Men whose vision was never limited to the present. Men who, with sublime and stubborn faith in the possibility of all things desirable, laid stone upon stone fashioning a social and economic edifice in which their children and their children's children might dwell. Men in whose souls burned deep the conviction that there is innate dignity in human life. Men who knew that the ideals of the American way were worth living for and worth dying for. Men who put the common good above selfish gain, and by contributing to the common good, made more secure their own possessions. We give thanks then for the record of the city's past, for in it we see in miniature the working of the American experiment, the achievements of free men, untrammeled in the building of a social order.
Let us now praise famous men by whom the Lord hath wrought great glory. Giving counsel by their understanding, such as have brought tidings in prophecies. Wise were their words in their instruction, such as sought out musical tunes and set forth verses in writing. All these were honored in their generations and were the glory of their times. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their names liveth forevermore. When it is present, men take example of it. When it is gone, they desire it. Therefore will the people tell of their wisdom. Let Let us now praise famous men, even the workmaster that passeth his time by night as by day, they that cut gravings of signets, and his diligence is to make great variety. He setteth his heart to preserve likeness in his portraiture, and is wakeful to finish his work. So is the potter sitting at his work and turning the wheel about with his feet, who is always anxiously set at his work, and all his handiwork is by measure. He fashioneth the clay with his arm, and bendeth its strength in front of his feet. He applieth his heart to finish the glazing, and is wakeful to make clean the furnace. All these put their trust in their hands, and each becometh wise in his own work. Yea, though they be not sought for in the council of the people, nor be exalted in the assembly, though they sit not on the seat of the judge, nor understand the covenant of judgment, though they declare not instruction and judgment, yet without these shall not a city be inhabited, nor shall men sojourn or walk up and down therein. For these maintain the fabric of the world, and in the handiwork of their craft is their prayer.
Dedication to the future. Even as we give thanks for the achievements of the century that is gone, we would solemnly dedicate ourselves to the century that is beginning. At this moment, the last sands of 100 years drop irretrievably into the glass. A space in that strange and boundless emptiness called time, given meaning only by the residue of working hands and minds, is gone. For the rich meaning of that century and its stewards, we give thanks. It remains for us, the living, as we step into the new century, to pledge ourselves and our children toward a more exquisite shaping of our city, its towers, its spires, its thousands of homes, its mile of toilers around our city spirit. For we believe that in the eyes of God the Father, all men are brothers. We believe that we are our brother's keeper. We believe in the efficacy of human reason, in the beauty and inviolability of human thought and speech, in the response to inherent goodness of the human heart. We believe that hunger, want, or any ugliness is beneath the dignity of free man. It is the glory of the city builders of Dallas that they dedicated themselves to the accomplishment of the impossible. As they were, shall we not also be apostles of eternal discontent? Shall it not be our glory, who initiate the second century of Dallas, that we proclaim and magnify a way of life for ourselves and for each new generation, a way that is the constant purpose of a goal that lies ever ahead, so that when we have mounted one horizon, the distant sight of another and still another shall spur us forward along the path which our founders pointed out to us. The past is modern, the present ancient. Love of our city,
pride in her achievements, sense of personal responsibility for her future. These are attitudes of old, as old as the race. May not we then, citizens of a new metropolis, in a world which challenges the truths we hold most dear, dedicate ourselves anew in the spirit and in the words of the Athenians of old, by affirming with our lips and in our hearts the oath of the citizen. We shall never bring disgrace to this our city by any act dishonest or faint-hearted, nor ever desert our comrades in the ranks of battle. We will fight for the ideals and sacred things of the city alone of many. We will revere and obey the city's laws and endeavor to incite a like respect and reverence in those who would set them at naught. We will strive unceasingly to quicken the people's sense of civic duty. Thus, in all ways, we will transmit this city, not less, but greater, better, and more beautiful than it was given to us. Now unto him that is able to keep us from falling, and to present us faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy, to the only wise God and our Savior, with whom is majesty and glory, dominion and power, both now and forevermore. Amen.